When you first tried to do yoga, you couldn't hardly hold the pose. Your muscles were so tight and so stiff you couldn't hardly hold the pose. But those of you who stuck with it, and those of you who have friends who stuck with it, you watched something happen where those muscles start to stretch and stretch and stretch. And now some of you can do stuff now today that was literally impossible just a few years ago. Your heart is a muscle. Your heart is a muscle. And you've been stretching it and stretching it your whole life. Since you were children. You had the biggest hearts and you kept stretching it. And what I'm saying to you now is you were right the whole time. That you were right to love people the whole time. You were right to care about people the whole time. And just because the bully won on one day doesn't mean the bully gets to win you any day. See? So keep your hearts open, Portland. Keep your hearts open. Keep stretching. Keep fighting. There is hate out there. I'm not going to lie to you. I've sat down with white supremacists on my show. There is hate out there. But the love is bigger in both parties and in all races, in all corners of the country. We're going to put our love against that hate. We're going to put our love against that hate. We're going to put our hope against that fear. We're going to put our compassion against those cold hearts, and we're going to win. We're going to win. We're going to win. Thank you very much. We're going to win. Thank you, Portland. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Hey, any questions?
You know, Van, I first of all have to say thank you. Sometimes people are shy about a microphone. Lawyers usually aren't.
Yeah.
So I wanted to take the phone. Thank you for your book.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask you, how do you talk to people who you fundamentally disagree with, who you think are wrong and who you think are frankly out to subvert our democracy? How do you talk to them?
Well, sometimes I don't. I mean, it's hard. And you have to make your own evaluation of what you're up for. You know, I'm not saying that everybody at every minute has to be this way. Sometimes you just have to cuss somebody out, or just walk away, or just have your feelings. But I'm saying we shouldn't lower our standards of what we're supposed to do and who we're supposed to be. So I'm not asking anybody to do anything that's too hard. So you need a lot of support to do what I do. I mean, I have a lot of support. Some days you just have to be mad and upset, but I don't want us to people say, I don't want to normalize Trump. Well, don't normalize setting your hair on fire every day either. I'm not going to let anybody steal my joy. So what is your question?
I guess the question I had was, in terms of that idea of being comfortable with being uncomfortable, the point where we ask ourselves, at what point do we question whether the world is the way we think it is, or that we are the people we think we are? And Portland has a long history of racism and injustice, and we hold ourselves up as a liberal utopia. And I'm coming from the heart of Trump country, and there are people in this room who've said things that I had to prevent myself from snapping their heads off, you know, because I feel like they don't understand. And that a lot of that hatred, that ignorance, that fear of offense, that fear of racism is born from that lack of understanding. And
when you say they don't understand what, in your view?
What what life is like when you are desperately poor, when you are at the absolute day-to-day, you don't know what that's like, and you think you do. You understand it conceptually, but you don't really realize just how deep the ignorance goes, your own sense goes, that you feel that that people are racist, and that makes them universally bad people. I can't ever talk to them again about anything. And I've worked with people who are racist, and they were funny, and they worked hard, and they did their jobs, and I could talk to them. And I come here and I say, I don't belong here, and I don't belong there. Coming from one to the other, it feels as if, being that lack of understanding, that need to translate one to the other, it feels like that's born from lack of exposure, that one side doesn't talk to the other, they don't live with the other, they don't communicate with the other. And that's where that fear, that hatred, that write people off comes from.
I grew up in rural West Tennessee. I had an experience when I was in high school. I worked, what's your name?
My name's Mike Kimball.
Hey, Mike. I had an experience. I worked in our little hometown newspaper when I was in high school. I wanted to go and be a reporter. I wanted to be a writer. And I went over to apply for the job, and it turned out that they don't hire high school students to be reporters. This was quite a shock to me. And I said, I refuse to leave unless you give me a job. And they said, we have no jobs for high school students unless you want to work on the printing press. And I said, I'll take it. So for a little bit more than a year, I worked in the back of the Jackson Tennessee, Jackson Sun, on the printing presses with a bunch of white guys who were just racist, chewing tobacco, the whole thing. And it was a tough experience, but as a young guy growing up in the South, you kind of knew it was out there. You just didn't always deal with it head on. I hated those guys, and I loved those guys. I hated those guys, and I loved those guys. And we go back and forth and back and forth. And then at the end of summer 1986, I got a minority scholarship to go to the University of Tennessee at Martin to be a part of their communications program. And because I had done well in English, I tested out 5 on the advanced placement, which meant I went directly, I didn't go to freshman English, I went directly into the journalism program. And the next summer, I was an intern at the same newspaper. And those guys were proud of me. College boy, little old college boy. Go on, college boy. Those guys were proud of me, and they hated me. The one thing that they were excited about, though, was that we were in the process of upgrading the whole plant, and that we were going to have a brand new printing press, and it was going to be state-of-the-art. And they talked about it every day. They couldn't wait. They were so excited about it. And they unveiled a new printing press and fired all my guys, because the new printing press was a building-sized robot that did their job in 10 times the speed at 100%, at 100 times less of the cost. And so in 2 summers, we went from me here and them there, talking down at me and me fighting back with them, to me being here and them being there, to them being gone. If you haven't lived it, you don't understand that you can hate somebody and love somebody. You can respect somebody and resent somebody. So what did I do? Like most of the kids in my town who had any shot, I got the hell out of there. And I went to Yale Law School, and I lived in Manhattan, and I've lived in Oakland and San Francisco and LA and DC and every liberal blue bubble that I could find. But my sister still lives in Jackson. So at least once a year, I gotta go home. And I'm so glad that she never moved, because it's messy. The truth is messy. And we have to develop more of a capacity to hold more of the messiness on all sides, or we're going to keep feeding what we're fighting. And you took a lot of courage to stand up here and say that you know racists that you think are funny, because 99.9% of progressive speakers would have taken the opportunity to decapitate you just for the sport of it, and just to reinforce to everybody that exactly how not racist I am, and how much I like black people and how much I don't like racist people. And you would have gone home feeling miserable, and this community would be worse and not better. So I appreciate you, Mike. I feel the same way that you do. I'm having a hard time with my progressive friends, because I go in the Trump White House and I sit down and talk with them. They have 200,000 federal prisoners they can crush or let go, and he's crazy enough to do either one. And I'm not going to let them not have a champion. And I have a lot of people who call me every name in the book. How can you go and talk to them? How can I not? We somehow think that we're morally superior because of what we won't do. We're morally superior because of who we won't talk to. We're morally superior because of who we'll cut off rather than who we'll reach out to. That we're morally superior based on calling somebody out, but not calling somebody in or calling somebody up. You know, that's not going to work. So I appreciate you for what you said, and I don't have an answer. All I know is that Bobby Kennedy, shot down the year I was born, 1968, said that moral courage is not standing up to your enemies. Anything and anybody will stand up to its enemy. Moral courage is standing up to your friends when they're wrong. It's standing up to your friends when you're wrong. And there's something about how we've been that's not right. So thank you, Mike. Thank you very much.